Hey everybody, welcome back to Leosity. Happy Halloween. I figured that since it is Halloween, I would answer some of the more occult-ended type questions that I'd been sort of saving for such an occasion. So I'm going to jump right in. Let's see. If one were to start with the Goetia, what would be a good demon for a newbie? Well, first of all, they're numbered for your convenience. They're numbered in hierarchical levels. So you would start with 72 Andromalius, and you would end with, I think one is King Belial, either that or Satan himself. I don't remember if he's actually part of that 72 list, but yeah, you kind of work your way up, and you don't have to do that, but I highly recommend starting with Andromalius if you're beginning, because the amount of energy and the actual level of sacrifice and the ways that you can screw up are less than any other entity on that chart, as far as I can tell. So yeah, let's see. Next question. What's the difference between LARPing rituals and real rituals? Well, first of all, any kind of metaphysical, spiritual, or occult group, anything dealing with intangible things that can't be quantified or measured, is going to be inundated with LARPers. With the same thing goes with politics, with people who are trying to either water down or purity spiral those groups, ultimately with the end goal of damaging them. So the chief difference between genuine and fraudulent, between a knockoff and what's real, ultimately comes down to whether it works. It's not how old it is. It's not anything in relation to that. It's does it work? And when it comes to anything dealing with magic, it's about subtlety. So people who wear flippin' sorting hats and prance around in circles, yeah, that's probably a pretty good red flag. Meanwhile, people who you wouldn't expect, because they act like regular, everyday people, it just so happens that one of their chief interests is pursuing something of a more unorthodox spiritual bent. That's a whole other matter. And it's also important to note that any kind of endeavor in this kind of field involves subtlety. Because ultimately, an important word, this could be its own vid, is theurgy. It's the idea of becoming aware of higher states of consciousness, of higher aspects of consciousness that ultimately lead up to a kind of union with either the universe or God, or something that's just substantially more complex, intricate, and powerful than the individual who's trying to form a kind of union with that. I almost said entity, but I mean they're inseparable from the very person who's seeking that, and so they're a separate entity, but they're not. It's almost, this is a ham-fisted analogy, but it's almost like a cell trying to become more aware that it's part of your body. And theurgy is not the same thing as practicing magic or occultism, but they're very, very interconnected, because they both involve subtlety. They both involve slowly coming to realizations and changing just the mapping, the layout of neurons, in such a way that you slowly exert a kind of force on exterior matter in the case of magic, and you slowly progress towards a kind of spiritual awakening, or consciousness-related awakening, if you don't mind the existence of a spirit, in relation to something higher. That's the most important aspect of it. And so anybody who's doing things just for theatrics, or just because it's unorthodox, by virtue of being unorthodox, then yeah, there's going to be issues. But sort out the refuse from the separate the wheat from the chaff. Let's see. Next question. Is Halloween really a day where the veil gets thinner? Yeah, I mean, again, we're dealing with things that can't be measured or quantified, but I do think it's somewhat telling that as the sun appears less and less prominently in the sky, and as the plants die back in temperate areas, pretty much every single culture that inhabits those areas has made an association between solar death and vegetative death and a thinning of the barriers between different dimensions or realms or worlds. And the Celts had a holiday associated with it that just sort of caught on because of Irish immigrants to the U.S. and became mainstream via globalization. But we see this in a myriad of cultures. The podcast I do, we talk at length. I think we devoted 2 whole episodes to different cultures around the world having parallels with Samhain. So it's one of those things where, like I said with the second question, does it work long term? Well, it worked for these ancient peoples. Doesn't mean it's true, but it certainly lends credence to the idea that it could be. My personal thoughts, yeah, I think there's probably some validity to that. Like, share, subscribe, keep asking questions, and once again, happy Halloween.